Good morning, everyone. This is Financial Literacy 101. This is a very important topic that I believe that we all should discuss in its totality. Or I'm going to do a brief overview of the contract with Black America, because I think a lot of people are getting this contract misunderstood. Okay, they're getting it confused with all other sorts types of plan, like the Platinum Plan or the Lift Every Voice Plan. Democratic Party and Republican Party expand to the Black people all the time. And they even do it when they come to us with a plan in the form of the Black National Anthem, like Lift Every Voice, and also the Platinum Plan. I mean, I don't know why somebody will call it the Platinum Plan, other than that, what I'm just looking at, I was just looking at Tone Talks and Ice Cube doing an interview, and Tone Talks was talking about a Platinum Plan because of Platinum Chains. I also thought the same exact thing when I was thinking about a Platinum Plan. But nonetheless, we need to understand that Ice Cube has put out a contract with Black America. And ever since he's done that, it's gained a lot of weight. It's gained a lot of steam, and it's beginning to propel into something that's very, very tangible. Now, I agree with the plan 90%, and I want to first and foremost thank Ice Cube, okay? I want to thank him for being the leader in the fight for reparations and equality and justice for foundational Black Americans. So I just want to thank Ice Cube. Now, there's no plan, I believe, that will ever be perfect for us, but this is a great, great start. If not, this is the meat and potatoes. And I think that it can be twerked. I think that it can be changed very slightly to be a perfect plan, so to speak. But nonetheless, Ice Cube continues to go on these platforms and defend himself. Now, there's some platforms that invite him on as a true guest, okay? Not to bash him, not to interrogate him, but to ask him to explain the contract with Black America and some of the details that they may see gray areas in, like when he interviewed with Dr. Boyce Watkins. I believe that was more of an interview versus an interrogation, when I essentially saw him on TV with, who was it? Roland Martin. Now, the interview with Cuomo on CNN, he had to continue to correct Chris Cuomo, I think it's Cuomo, about his contract with Black America, and he did that to the utmost. And I would like to thank our brother Ice Cube for speaking up for foundational Black Americans, even though people like to point out that the Congressional Black Caucus actually had legislation in office, okay, that supposedly passed one portion of the House but did not pass into law. But nobody knew about them because, again, they don't release them the way that most of us nowadays receive information, and that's from what? Social media, okay? Social media. So before I get into the contract with Black America that Ice Cube and a few of his affiliates actually written up for us, I kind of want to get into him trying to really break down in that the message is getting confused between people, political affiliations, and also just regular people who is kind of sitting back on the sidelines like, okay, what's going on with Ice Cube and Donald Trump and Ice Cube and not the Democrats, so on and so forth. There needs to be an explanation. There needs to be some redefinement for we can understand what's truly going on. And quite frankly, let me just brief it for you. Ice Cube sat out front and made a contract with Black America So foundational Black Americans can get reparations in many forms, as it should be. With that being said, the Democratic Party and also Republican Party reached out to Ice Cube. Now, when it came to the Democrat, they said, yeah, we'll discuss your contract with Black America after the election. Whereas though the Trump campaign, the Republicans say, hey, we can discuss this right now. We can discuss this before the election. And so that's why he went over there and spoke with them about the contract with Black America, and them saying, hey, you know what, we're going to take, is it okay if we take bits and pieces from your contract with Black America and put it into the platinum plan? Because we also need to understand that they need to politicize their plan to Black America so they can win the Black vote. Because at the end of the day, for us, I believe that as foundational Black Americans, we need to be sitting in the middle and we're like, okay, who's going to give us tangibles? Okay. And I've said this before, not in the form of, oh, you know what, we're going to do this. No. Put that stuff in executive orders right now while you're still in office. That way you can secure another 4 years. Because I'm going to tell you how important the contract with Black America is. So important, but it's missing one vital thing. But before I get into that, I want you guys to hear from Ice Cube. I'm not going to play the entire message, but we're going to go down his Twitter page of how he's responding to all these freaking Sambos that's coming at him and these white supremacists that are coming at him. Now, let's watch this small video. Okay, I told you I'm not going to play the entire thing, but nonetheless, I believe that's important that you guys see this.
What's happening, fam? You already know how I get down. Over the last few months, I've been really going deep into this political space, reading a lot of history, trying to understand how systems work, not getting caught up in anybody's rhetoric, but looking for my damn self, and just trying to figure out why we continue to flounder at the bottom. What is it? And what I found is that it's systems in place, as we all know. It ain't because, we ain't doing what we supposed to do as Black people, because, of course, we all can do better. There's shit that we need to do to clean up ourselves and our community. But besides that shit, the system is fucked up. It's just designed totally. And not only designed, but there's a dedication to keeping us at the bottom of this country. And I don't know if we can count on any parties to get us about the shit, to be honest. So we are going to have to do a lot of things different as a Black community. We have to pool our resources. We have to think about ourselves. We love all the other races of the world, but at some point we got to figure out how do we get ahead, because everybody's on top of us but us.
Exactly.
Everybody's on top of us. And the shit ain't gonna work. We ain't gonna survive this the way it's going. It's just designed that I can't see the future. So we gotta change this shit. Everybody's been mad at me because I haven't been on the fucking, the gravy train of these candidates, especially Joe Biden and Harris.
Of course.
I don't trust none of them. No president has done right by us.
You heard from his mouth. He doesn't trust none of them.
I don't trust none of them. So putting our hopes and dreams behind any of them just don't work. We gotta make them do what we want them to do. And
exactly.
There's only a few ways to do that. Now, I've been making contacts, trying to, talk about these real issues, straight up, I believe the Democrats they've been
before I
nice,
continue
they've
on with
been,
this video, family, I really want to engage with you guys about Ice Cube has always been on code. Ever since he's been on the scene in NWA, Ice Cube has always been on code. Okay? And he's never left code. As again, he doesn't trust any of them. But let's get back into some of the feeds on his Twitter page, because I believe it's very imperative that you read this. So first and foremost, they believe that their brother's uneducated, where I believe Ice Cube is very intelligent. And first and foremost, you don't know some of the grassroots he has done because he didn't publicize it, because that's not how he done. But when it came to the contract with Black America, he publicized it not only for foundational Black Americans to know, but for the politicians to know. In order you're going to get something from us, we need something from you, just like you do every group that you have pandered to. Right here, 2 hours ago, I guess I wasn't qualified when I helped ADOS get Governor Gavin Newsom to sign the AB 3121 into law. That was like some sort of form of reparation they did, I believe, out in California. Then he also says HR 40 needs to be fixed before it's signed. It's like in real teeth. At Jackson Lee TX, I've been trying to contact you for over a week. Okay, so these are the things that Ice Cube is doing that a lot of people don't understand. This is the one I absolutely love, because if you see right here, he got the middle finger because D.L. Hughley retweeted some bull crap about him being with. Now, it wasn't an original tweet from D.L. Hughley, but again, when you retweet things, the consensus is that you support that retweet. Or if you don't put any context or description why you retweeted it, then we can assume whatever we want, and that's what we're going to do. That's why he has a middle finger at that retweet, okay? Now, here's what he says. I hope all these people with podcasts and radio shows telling the world I'm too unqualified and uneducated to talk about a document I created, okay? He created. Don't get asked to pull out their communications degrees and show you they are qualified and educated enough to speak to you over airwaves. He said, where's your credentials? Where's your qualifications? That's basically what he's trying to say in this particular tweet, okay? He goes on. He talks about HR 40. Here's the interview he did with Tone Talks, okay? Family, make sure some of these educated fools who are always telling you what to do are really Black and not Greeks in disguise. Now, that was a shot, okay? Now, I don't know what the brother meant by that, but essentially, there's a video out there on a channel called The Black Post about the Black Boule. The Black Boule, essentially, the rhetoric behind that is that they are the 1%ers who essentially try to keep the rest of Black people down and always try to have us to vote for the Democratic Party for their own means, okay? So I don't know if he's talking about that, but very specifically, he said that they are really Black and not Greeks in disguise. I don't know, family. I don't know about that one right there. Then he says, don't contact me with people I'm not working with. I have nothing to do with them. Far as timing, I never read your question about what would have been better timing for you. Now, this is at this particular tweet, okay? He said, no, there are plenty of people trying to do that at Ice Cube. Talking about Kanye West, Candace Owens, so on and so forth. Now, I'm going to read about a couple of more so you guys get the gist of what I'm getting at. A lot of energy. Let me blow this up. I know you, my apologies. You guys can't see. Let me blow this up. Blow this up. Okay. All right. Right here, he says, why is it going back down? What are we doing here? Give me a second, family. Give me a second. I don't know what's going on. This is crazy. I have no idea what's going on with my computer right now. Give me 1 second, family. All right. He said, do not connect with me, people I am not working with. I have nothing to do with them. I already read that one. Give me a second. I'm messing up here. This is crazy. A lot of energy being spent on telling me to stay in my lane. That's what he's saying. A lot of energy been spent to tell me stay in my lane. Zero energy spent on telling Biden and Harris they need to do way more for black people than to shut up and vote. That is what he's talking about. That is what he's talking about. Now, quite frankly, I've been playing this video on my channel for a very, very long time. And if you guys, now this is important because a lot of you never heard this video, but I believe it's important. Give me 1 second. That's not it. Give me 1 second because I think it's very, very important that you guys see this video. I really, really think it is because a lot of you guys have not seen this video. And I just think it's hilarious because she tells us, quite frankly, that she's not going to do anything.
Do you support reparations for black people? Well, listen.
Let me replay that.
Again, we had over 200. Do you support reparations for black people? Well, listen. Again, we had over 200 years of slavery. We had Jim Crow for almost a century. We had legalized discrimination and segregation, and now we have segregation and discrimination that is not legal but still exists and is a barrier to progress. We have disparities around housing. We have disparities around education. We have disparities around income. And we have to recognize that everybody did not start out on an equal footing in this country. And in particular, black people have not.
Oh.
And so
she admits that particularly black people have not started out on an equal playing field. Okay, she pointed that out.
To recognize that and do something about that and give folks a lift up. That's why, for example, I'm proposing the Lift Act. Give people who are making $100,000 or less as a family a tax credit.
Okay, that's what she went off
and uplift.
She said to give people a lift up. That's what she come up with the Lift Act. Then she said people who are making less than $100,000, not black people, because she's going to reveal that she don't support foundational black Americans at all. And that kind of makes sense because she's not one herself, but that's neither here nor there.
60% of black families who are in poverty.
So by default, it affects black families, but there's not a particular policy for African Americans that you would explore.
But no,
okay, she asked her again. She said, so you have no particular policy that affect African American families solely. And this is her response.
You look at the reality of who will benefit from certain policies. When you take into account that they're not starting at the same place and they're not starting on equal footing, it will directly benefit black children, black families, black homeowners, because the disparities are so significant. So if we focus on the specific issues that have resulted in the greatest disparities, and we understand that that's part of why we're doing it. Listen, the reality also is this. Any policy that will benefit black people will benefit.
Okay, I'm going to back up a little more because I need you guys to hear this. Because she's talking about how this Lift Act will directly help African Americans, but not only. Again, tangibles, reparations, all that has been spread across the board with minority and AKA people of color. This is not what we want because minorities, AKA people of color, their ancestors they're not foundational black Americans who are American descendants of slaves. So everybody can get reparations in their own ethnic groups, okay, and their own race, except for us. When it comes for us, it disperses out to many other groups. Here's a kicker. I want you to listen to what she's saying. It's very, very important.
Benefit all of society. Let's be clear.
Back up. Listen to this.
And we understand that that's part of why we're doing it. Listen, the reality also is this. Any policy that will benefit black people will benefit all of society. Let's be clear about that. Let's really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No, because whatever benefits that black family will benefit that community and society as a whole and the country. Right?
So again, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from the horse's mouth. You heard it from the horse's mouth that she is not going to do anything that solely benefits African Americans, foundational Black Americans. She will not. That is what she said. You can't make this stuff up. That is what she said. She is not going to sign or offer anything that is solely going to help Black people. She's not. Even though that Black people were solely in slavery, our ancestors, and that we have not get paid. But let's go over this contract with Black America. And I'm going to tell you right off the back here, as we get into this, okay, as we get into this, there's some information that I hate that's not on the forefront of this contract with Black America. First and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, during slavery, America generated $14 trillion of wealth. $14 trillion of wealth that's owed to the descendants of slaves. That's you and I. So if I do 14 trillion divided by 40 million, those are all even numbers, so I can probably do the math. $350,000 per person. Why did I get 40 million? Because roughly there's 40 million foundational Black Americans in this country. Roughly there's 40 million foundational Black Americans in this country, and we all deserve and we are all owed $350,000. I don't care who gets the check. What I mean by that is, as long as you are a foundational Black American and your descendancy are from slavery, from slaves, then you're supposed to get the bag. You're supposed to get the check. $350,000, according to the $14 trillion that America has accumulated during slavery. Nobody else. Not people of color, okay? Not people of color, not minorities, foundational Black Americans. That is what we need to get straight. And that is the 10% that is not in this contract with Black America. It should be grant $350,000 per person. That is what's missing. Okay. Now, nonetheless, I told you, I thank Ice Cube for making this contract with Black America, and it's a great start. And it has a lot of meat and potatoes in it, which I absolutely love. So let's get through this. Okay. I don't want to be before you long. Now, bill to guarantee Black opportunity and representation. Adopt a plan of neo-reconstruction to redress past wrongs systematically imposed on Black Americans economically through many generations that have resulted in a wealth gap where the average white family has 10 times the wealth of a Black family. 10 times the wealth. 10 times the wealth. In addition to some of this economic initiative listed below, also formally apologize to Black Americans for past discrimination and slavery. Additionally, Black opportunity and representation will include affirmative action in school, public and private, per student funding in states on equal basis instead of paid by local property tax. Black representation in all government civil rights bodies, civil rights classes mandatory in elementary schools. Gerrymander reform, okay, that's pandering to one political party so they can actually get most of the votes. Additional polling places in Black and minority neighborhoods. Juneteenth to become a federal holiday. Okay. Now you're going to see minority a couple of times in here. For the most part, the contract is on code. I don't really like the word minorities in there, but we're talking about polling places. So that's not too much of tangibles in the first place. Okay. Now this is the part where I like it and I don't like it. The part what I'm talking about here should be a grant. Okay. A check per person, a descendant of a foundational Black American who was a slave, okay, of $350,000. But nonetheless, we have bank lending reform. I don't want us continue to become in debt, but there is a disparity in bank lending reform. That's why a lot of Black Americans don't live in homes. We live in apartments. We live in the hood. We live in projects. We live in duplex where some of you can't afford a home, okay? So this is important too, though. But I just wanted to point that out. We need grants, not loans, but essentially, so we can wipe away discrimination in the financial, we need bank lending reform as well. It says here, bank lending will regulate to require banks to lend a percentage of all loan and credit categories on an equal basis to the Black population each bank serves. However, the minimum threshold must yearly meet the percentage equal to the national black population, which is 13.4%, rates on black loans federally and from banks to be same average rates as whites. So don't discriminate in your rates because I'm a black person. That's basically what it's saying, okay? Now, let me read some of your notes. I'm not forgetting what you guys say. Let's get into the notes really quickly. All right, we have Mike in the room. He said that Ice Cube has been vocal about how black people were treated here in America. We have Mitchell Liggins in the room. He says, this is so true about the Greek. I understand 100% what he's talking about. Many of them are not pushing for black empowerment. They're pushing for a job. We're on code B1. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. We have Reloaded. He said, I'm glad you showed this again, big dog. Well, I appreciate that. We got Alfonso Morris in here. I don't think Juneteenth should be a national holiday. It's going to end up like Black Friday. We need set apart holiday just for us. Okay. I can discuss that further. That's not a bad thing. I don't disagree with that, brother. I mean, we should have all the holidays. I'm not going to get into how we built this country. I'm going to leave it alone. All right. Federal funding of baby bonds. Passed federal program providing every child with a government-funded trust account at birth, starting with $1,000 contribution. How about $350,000 of contribution? How about that? As proposed by Senator Booker and Representative Presley, accounts to be managed by the Treasury, and only those born into lower wealth families would receive more contribution each year, up to $46,500. And at the age of 18, access to the funds allow about use restricted to assets enhancing actions such as buying homes and starting businesses and funding education. Okay. Federal Reserve and government pensions for qualified Black Americans. Federal Reserve to allow a one-time interest-free loan for home ownership. The Fed to ensure banks and institutions it oversees comply with bank lending reform. Feds to adopt modern monetary theory with goal of full employment and avoidance of actual inflation. So don't inflate our loans that you give us on these pensions. Federal and state pension funds control over $1 trillion. They must allocate 13.4% of their investments to Black-owned enterprises and businesses. Venture capital and private equity funds that take money, public entities must invest 13.4% of their total funds in Black-owned businesses. And see, what you guys don't understand, this is not just a federal contract with Black America. This is a contract with Black America, period. Federal, state, local, and private. So Ice Cube is hitting on all cylinders. He like, I wanted federal, I wanted state, I wanted local, I wanted city, I wanted the council, and I want private. I want everybody who had a hand in slavery who benefited to pay us back intangibles. That is what this is talking about, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Finance oversight. A banking commission or even a cabinet or sub-cabinet post will be set up to overlook and report on Black and minority lending. Okay. Slightly off code, but he did separate Black and minority. I'll give him a point there, but just Black. That's the only part. I told you I agree with 90% of the plan. One thing he's missing is $350,000 per person, and we can scratch out, red out, white out, black out, minority. Housing ownership and mortgages, and enforce of items 2 and 3 above. Such authority will also oversee and audit federal programs such as Economic Opportunity Zones and Community Reinvestment Act, CRA, to determine who is benefiting from disbursement of such funds. We provide for a transparent reporting mechanism for abuse to economic programs designed to benefit communities in need. And for the finance oversight, I nominate Dr. Boyce Watkins. I just want to put it out there because I don't trust anybody. I don't trust too many people. Okay. First of all, you got to be on code. Second of all, you got to be for us. And that's the person who I publicly know. Okay. Publicly know, not privately know. Publicly know that I believe that he would do great on a finance oversight of how tangibles would be going out to the Black community. That's just my personal opinion. Personal data and credit. I know a lot of you can benefit from personal credit, okay? Because a lot of us have been sabotaged by financial institutions when it comes to our credit report. Most states publicly release bulk data about arrestees unchecked. Like the 1970 Fair Credit Reporting Act regarding credit data, there must be guidelines regarding arrest records that allow similar privacy and accuracy protections and the right to dispute and correct inaccurate data. Credit services will be reformed to mandate consideration of individual consumer data on rent, utility, cell phone, and other like bill payments. Now, there's a lot of discrepancies when a lot of people was having problems with their cell phone bills. It doesn't matter if it was Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, or T-Mobile. A lot of people credit score was actually being decreased even after they had a situation and paid off their bills. And that is still even today, is still being reported as a negative entry in your credit report and is driving down your credit score, which is preventing you to starting a business. That is preventing you from buying a house, okay? Prison reform. Privately run prisons will be abolished. Privately run prisons will be abolished. And for some of you who are not familiar with this, who you think benefited from privately ran prisons? Anybody? Anybody? Let me open up just in case somebody has some questions. They want to comment. They want to rant. They want to troll. Here you go. There you go. There you go. Just click the link and you can join me with or without your video. But I'm going to continue on because I'm going to tell you the one entity that actually benefited from prison reform, from the lack of prison reform, was the 1994 crime bill that Joe Biden and Bill Clinton both co-authored. Some of you disrespectful Negroes out there talking about Bill Clinton, the first black president. No. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't get it twisted, family. Don't get it twisted. See, that's the one piece of legislation that incarcerated more black men than any other form of law or legislation ever created, ever doctored in American history. I mean, if you really tally up the amount of black people that have been incarcerated because of the 1994 crime bill and a truancy law that Kamala Harris written up in California, you have yourself well over 1 million something foundational black Americans in jail. And if some of you are saying, well, all of them were guilty and they all committed crimes, I want you to go back and look at your research and you'll see that 20 to 25% of black people who are in jail committed no crime at all. Falsely reported, illegitimate accounts of first eyewitness reports. Family, we have to understand this. Privately run prison will be abolished. Prison labor disallowed without consent. And nonviolent offenders incarcerated for 10 years or longer will be freed if good behavior standards meet. All prisoners for marijuana possessions freed. Okay. No. You see, I stopped when I said all prisoners for marijuana possessions freed. I had a cousin who did some time because he had weed on him. First offenses for illegal drug use or possession to require government payment for entry into an approved drug rehabilitation program rather than imprisonment. Basically, he's saying when you incarcerated people during the crack or the cocaine pandemic, you incarcerated majority of black people. But now that we're in this opioid pandemic, you are now finding rehabilitation programs for them. So a lot of people will like to say, well, this is not a race thing. This is a drug thing. Well, history shows foundational black Americans that it's a race thing. Because when we were going through the crack pandemic, by the way of the three-letter agencies. I'm just going to say it, AIC and the IBF, okay? The AIC and the IBF, those two three-letter organizations directly had hands in the crack pandemic in Black communities, okay? Because you know what? Today I downloaded some documents about the COINTELPRO, how the FBI dismantled the Black Panther Party, okay? But we won't get into that. I don't want to get off on point here. First offense for illegal drug use or possession to require government payment for entry into an approved drug rehabilitation program rather than imprisonment. Once a prisoner completes sentence, voting rights are restored. What I don't understand, family, is this. How do you kill the Black vote? How do you make the Black vote not count? First and foremost, you incarcerate majority of Black men. So you destroy the Black family. You destroy the Black family. You just lock up majority of Black men. So you just wipe away the Black family. Now the women of the home are now raising their sons and daughters by themselves. Now, some of you may contest, some of you may argue that a lack of a positive Black male role model inside the home is probably why there's a large portion of the Black community who's also part of the LGBT community. Some of you probably would like to argue that. I'm not getting into your sexual preferences. I'm not getting into that. But some people like to argue that that might have contributed to a lot of our Black family members being part of the LGBT community. I'm just saying that might be a point there. That's a topic for another discussion. Judicial reforms: eliminate mandatory minimums and 3-strike laws. Okay. Eliminate mandatory minimums and 3-strike laws. The Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice reform through a stricter guideline and greater oversight over police departments. Department of Justice can be sued for non-compliance. Lynching to become a federal hate crime, and the KKK declared a terrorist group. Now, there's a lot of other groups missing in this that should be, declared a terrorist group, because we understand that the KKK really don't have as much power and influence like they used to have. The only thing that probably makes us a little worried about them is that they wear the hoods and stuff and they try to hide themselves. But for the most part, the KKK don't really have that much power they used to have. Okay, they have a lot of white nationalist groups out there that's part of this whole white supremacy system, okay, that the KKK can be a part of, but essentially the KKK doesn't hold much weight like they used to. Okay, they're not as big as they used to. They have metamorphosized into smaller other white supremacy groups. Okay, they don't wear hoods because they realize that these Black people ain't scared of these hoods no more, man. It's hot as hell under this hood and this robe. They was wearing regular clothes and hoods. They're like, them Black people ain't scared of these hoods no more. Matter of fact, when they see a hood, they want to punch me in my face. So we're not scaring them no more. So that's the thing that we need to understand about that. Okay. So let me go back. I want to point something about this prison reform that I believe that I missed. Why do you think he said that prison labor disallowed without consent? Does anyone know why you think Ice Cube said that? Does anyone understand why Ice Cube put that in the contract with Black America? That prison labor disallowed without consent. Now, what he could have said is that the 13th Amendment needs to be corrected, because a lot of us really don't understand. Give me a second here. Give me a second. I want to point something out to you guys why that's so important. And I'm not trying to say you guys don't know the 13th Amendment at all. I'm not trying to get there, ladies and gentlemen. What I'm trying to point out something here. It says here, neither slavery. Let me blow this up in case here we go again. Here we go. I was having some issues. All right. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except, listen to this, in case you guys are not familiar with this. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude. So slavery, work without pay. Slavery, getting raped without consent. Slavery, getting mutilated, dismembered, burned, hung, fighting your brother without consent. You being made to do something for free. Except, listen to this, slavery, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime. Except for a punishment for crime. That's where we are, ladies and gentlemen. See, a lot of times people are like, oh, slavery has been abolished in America. It has not. Because if you read this, comma, you know, people say, comma, right? Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, comma, except, so with this one occasion, as a punishment for crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted. Thank you, 1994 crime bill. Thank you. Thank you, 1994 crime bill. Let me get back to where I was. Where was I? Here I go. Thank you, 1994 crime bill. Because we need to understand that slavery still exists in America when you are convicted of a crime. When you are convicted of a crime, you are still in slavery. So this portion of the contract with Black America is so important that we truly abolish slavery. Prison labor disallowed without consent, meaning he has the choice of working rather than you punish him further and put him in a hole. Police Reform Act. Police reforms will be implemented in an expansive act that will at minimum include elimination of qualified immunity. See, family, if we get rid of qualified immunity, we get into police punishment. That means they will be punished as though they are citizens committing a crime. That means they can no longer hide behind their badge. Let me see who's in the room. Let me see who's in the room. I want to make sure and point out everything. Mike says here in Florida, you get more time for crack than powder coke. Yes, that's very true because they understand that non-Black people do cocaine and majority of Black people do crack cocaine. And they say how that crack cocaine is more addictive, which it is, than cocaine. But let's figure out, where does crack cocaine come from? It comes from pure cocaine. Mitch says the concrete and steel businesses benefit off that crime bill. Also, prior to that, the anti-drug bill passed that gave stiffer prison sentences for rock cocaine compared to pure cocaine. Biden bills. Again, we're talking about the war on drugs. Remember, a lot of those bills came out of the war on drugs, or as I like to say, the war on foundational Black Americans. Mike says the alt-right, the Proud Boys, Ram just named a few. In prison, they make you work, and if you don't work, you get locked up and take away your game time here in Florida. We got Code Red in the room. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to point out something about this whole Proud Boys and all these other groups. First and foremost, let's stop associating, Let's stop associating the Proud Boys, the alt-right with the KKK. Okay, the KKK was a grade A terrorist group. Now, I don't know really nothing about the Proud Boys, and I don't care to know nothing about the Proud Boys. But the one thing that I know is that, from what I can tell, the Proud Boys have not incarcerated any Black people. From what I can tell, the Proud Boys have not killed any Black people. Okay? And again, I don't care anything about them, not affiliated with them or nothing. The Democratic Party likes to put labels on any group that attaches themselves to Donald Trump. Okay? They both demonize each other of being wicked and being white supremacists. Where if you look at both of them in their totality, they are both supporters of white supremacists, if not the head honchos on both political sides. That is what we need to understand, family. They would like us to pick and choose a side, but there's really no side that foundational Black Americans can be on except waiting for somebody to offer us tangibles. See, what they do is they pander and they fearmonger us if we don't accept the bait. If we don't accept the bait, like the lift plan, and she told us very blatantly that she's not going to do any legislation that's going to solely help foundational Black Americans. She told us that verbatim. You heard it right here. Talking about your girl, Kamala Harris. Okay? So that's what we need to understand. So let's not pick a side because of what we may think, because Donald Trump told the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by. Now, if you looked at the town hall that Donald Trump said, he actually said he denounced white supremacy. Now, do I believe that? I don't care to believe it, because guess what? If we get caught up in all this rhetoric of he say, she say, and I can't believe Donald Trump, and Joe Biden can't remember what he said to the next day, the only thing I care about is tangibles. Okay? Stuff like police reform. We're going to get back into it, family. I'm not going to run my mouth too long. Let's get back into it. Let's get back into it, because this is what we need to understand. Let me blow this up if I can again. Let's see if it messes up. Oh, here we go. I done made it smaller. This is what I'm talking about. Okay. Police reforms will be implemented in an expansive act that will, at a minimum, include elimination of qualified immunity. This is Ice Cube's A Contract with Black America. A contract with Black America, not minority America, not people of color, NAACP. You might want to change your name. Requirement of mandatory malpractice insurance for police officers. Requirement of mandatory malpractice insurance for police officers. Do you know why? You know where he got this from? He got this from Dick Gregory. Because Dick Gregory said if the police had insurance, they'll stop killing Black people, because they'll have to pay so much money. Just like a nurse or a doctor. I think more so a nurse, more so a doctor have his own malpractice insurance than a nurse. I think the nurse is actually backed by the hospital, if I'm not mistaken. Requirement of mandatory malpractice insurance for police officers, so they can pay out of pocket and still go to jail. Make municipalities liable for unconstitutional actions by the police. Mandatory use of dashboard and body cams. So you see it all. You see it from the car view and from the chest view. Elimination of chokeholds and no-knock warrants. Why are the police choking people anyway? Anytime I see a video and it's a Black person, I always see 6 and 7. I've never seen no less than 4 people. Are they saying that foundational Black Americans can whip ass and we need like a whole gang of us? Like these niggers are strong. They real strong. You see them out there running and pushing people down. We need about a whole squad of us. So they come in droves. Okay, they come 5, 6, 7 deep. They act like it's a national security incident, and you see all these police cars. They're like, what'd he do? Oh, he was speeding recklessly. What's the speed limit? Oh, 70 miles per hour. How fast was he going? 80. Everybody goes 80. So get rid of the chokeholds and the no-knock warrants. Because the no-knock warrant, we all understand because of Breonna Taylor how important that is, right? Because I'm just like that brother who was the boyfriend of Breonna Taylor. You come busting down my door, you don't announce yourself as the police, I'm busting off too. Because I stay strapped, okay? I stay strapped. I'm busting off too. You come through the door, you're gonna feel some hot ones. That's all I'm saying. And the boy is trained with the handle. The boy is trained with the armory. I'm telling you right now. You're gonna feel some hot ones. De-escalation training and requirement to update training. De-escalation training and requirement to update training. Okay? Severe penalties for evidence tampering, including without DNA, a federal database of police and disciplinary records established and made public, and once fired for cause cannot be rehired. That's important, family, because we understand that a lot of police officers, they get fired from their county. They'll go to the adjacent county next door and get hired. They say, "Oh, so man, why were you fired, man? I had this black guy, man. He was being real rough, and I had to put him down hard, and it looked real bad. It was in the news. You probably saw it. Oh man, that wasn't none. Come on over here, brother." That's how they talk to each other. Come on over, man. We saw what's happening. You was done wrong. So they cannot be rehired anywhere. They can no longer be a police officer. Very, very important. Very, very important. That's how we're going to decrease the amount of race soldiers in uniform on the streets. That's how you decrease that. That's how you can decrease that. Okay? A federal database of police. Doesn't matter if they're in a small town, a city, state, don't matter what level of police it is, a federal database so we can all look it up and make that database public so we can all look it up. Okay? What else do I like in this? Severe penalties for evidence tampers, including without DNA. Very important. Creation of Office of Independent Prosecution to solely focus on prosecuting police accused of wrongdoing. Oh my gosh, that is good. That is a great piece of this pie. Creation of Office of Independent Prosecutors to solely focus on prosecuting police accused of wrongdoing. Other reforms as listed in greater detail in the contract. Okay. FCC licensing of public airwaves. Broadcast networks will be required to air Black produced content equally to 20% of the total content on the network as measured by time. That has a lot to do with the case with Comcast and Byron Island. Comcast was not trying to give Byron Island any airwaves to show any of his content. Now, I won't get into Byron Island, but if you notice, Byron Island was very public about this discrimination lawsuit with him and his company with Comcast. He won that lawsuit, okay? He won that lawsuit, but now you hear nothing about Byron Island on any playing field. He's not in the reparations talk. He's not in the justice reform. He's not in punishment for police. He's not nowhere to be found. He's nowhere to be found. It's kind of like that guy at the cookout who rushed in front of the line before everybody get their food. Like, I got mine. And then he roll out. That's what that remind me of. I got mine. And he roll out. Byron Island, where are you at? Now that you won your lawsuit and you're on the airwaves of Comcast, when are you going to start speaking up for foundational Black Americans? Confederate monuments and institutions. We don't need any more symbolism of racism and white supremacy. That's what this says to me. Elimination of all Confederate statues and use or displays of Confederate flags on government grounds or property with public access. Rename all streets, schools, public structures, etc., named after Confederate soldiers or leaders. A memorial will be built in Washington, D.C. to the victims of police excessive force. Why is this important? Everywhere you go, there's a Robert E. Lee highway or interstate or road. And here's a funny thing that a lot of people have pointed out. I won't be the first. But what's imperative to note, ladies and gentlemen, is that if you go to any other country in the world, there's no monuments or institutions. They may have some history in the museum, but they're not on public display for everyone to look at and read about how the Confederate lost a war, how the Confederates lost a Civil War. And a lot of even Southern Black people who don't know their history say, oh, it's just a flag. It doesn't symbolize racism. Do you know the cause why the Confederates were actually fighting the Union soldiers? Do you know your history on that? If it wasn't for slavery, then what it was? Why did the Confederates and Unions get into a fight anyway? If everybody was benefiting off of slavery, then why did they go to war? That's the question. That's the question. A lot of people don't know their history. So we have a lot of Sambos down there in the South with the Confederate flag hat on, don't even know their history, and talking about Southern pride. Why do we continue to marvel and celebrate and pay homage to part of America that was fighting with part of America solely for slavery? Now, they probably give you some other reasons like political powers, that these particular states didn't agree with the Union, particular states. But what was the disagreements? The major disagreement was that the Union, okay, was talking about freeing more slaves, not abolishment of slavery. Let's get that correct. Let's get that correct, because everybody knows what Lincoln said. If I could win the war without freeing slaves, I would. But we need more people. We need more people. And we know that these Negroes are going to fight for their freedom. That's the one thing that we do know. They don't want to be enslaved. Who wants to be a slave? That's what Lincoln said. Who wants to be a slave? They're going to fight for their freedom. So if I release them and tell them after the war they'll be free, oh, they're going to fight their ass off. The Confederates, mostly Southern states, they're like, no, we need these slaves because we're rich. We're getting wealthy. We're doing well. Now, of course, the Southern states had more plantations than the Northern states, but the Northern still had slaves too. They were mostly like cooking and cleaning, taking care of their babies, even though they were doing it in the South too. But they had us everywhere in the South. So that's what we need to understand. Elimination of all Confederate statues and uses of display of Confederate flags on government grounds. And here's the thing. He's not talking about, hey, that's your house. You can fly the biggest Confederate flag you want. You are free. If you want to celebrate losers, if you want to celebrate people who are fighting against America, then go ahead. Then go ahead. Then that's what you want to do. The AG Program for Education and Jobs, adoption of AGP, a public-private program that provides access to jobs and education and or training for people willing to put in the work and commitment. This is very important, ladies and gentlemen. After this, I'm going to open up the lines for you guys to comment. You can join me here. You can join me here. I'm going to put the link in the description here. You can join me live after I read this one last one. Anybody has anything they want to add or anything like that, okay? Let me put this in the chat. Give me 1 second, and I'm going to read this last one. All right. Black responsibility. This is one of the most important part of this contract with Black America, because we have to have some accountability for ourselves. Chronic poverty creates an atmosphere full of negativity, frustration, hopelessness, depression, alcoholism, drug abuse, crime, and violence. These are some of the conditions that plague the Black community, which is dealing with extreme generational poverty. As we begin to gain social and economic equality, it is our duty to clean up ourselves and our community. This contract is a two-way street, not a one-way street. As we gain social and economic equality, we must begin to dissolve any bitterness in our hearts for past wrongs. We must become better citizens who are more productive on all levels of American society. We really must set up after we pass the contract with Black America with no more excuses left in the kitty. Meaning, once we get this contract, we can't keep reverting back to everything about, oh, it's because we're Black, because we're going to have the economic structure to do better. Exception up to $350,000 check that we all supposed to get. I'm going to talk about that very briefly after this. Our entertainers should be persuaded to deliver more positive content that leads our youth to make better choices in life. A new pride must develop with these new opportunities, and we must fight against negativity, frustration, hopelessness, depression, alcoholism, drug abuse, crime, and violence. I agree with that 1,000%. 1,000%, ladies and gentlemen. So if you want to join me here, go and click the link in the chat room. You can do with or without your video. Now, the one part of this bill that is missing is a grant to every foundational Black American, for every American descendant of slaves, not for every minority, not for minorities. No, 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 no. Take that word out. Not for people of color. No, 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 no. For American descendant of slaves who are foundational Black Americans, plain zero. $350,000 to each one of us as reparation in form of money. I don't care. Some of you are thinking, well, if that family member get it, he just gonna blow it on rims. Then let them blow it on rims. Let them blow it on Jordans. Let them blow it on purses. But that is the money that we are owed. $14 trillion was accumulated during slavery for the wealth of the most powerful country in the world. And none of us, descendants of slaves, had received not 1 cent of that money. Not 1 cent. And you guys need to really go and do your research, because there's been a lot of other groups who have received this money. I like to point out my two most popular ones was the $12 million that Barack Obama and Joe Biden gave to Holocaust survivors. And I like to point out, where was the Holocaust? Well, that was in Nazi Germany during that time. That was the Holocaust. It didn't happen in America, but the American president and the American vice president gave reparations. Now, they got their money. I have nothing against that. I have nothing against that. But where is our money at? So, ladies and gentlemen, we have to start asking for real tangibles. And again, I would like to thank Ice Cube for putting this out there, because there's been, oh, I put this plan out, I put that plan out. Did you make it public? He made it public. Like the Congressional Black Caucus has put out all this legislation that nobody knows except them. But it hasn't got no notoriety, no push, no support. Because guess what? How can we support bills and legislation that first and foremost that nobody knows about? And then when you read them, they got all this verbiage in it that don't really support Black Americans. It support everybody. No. That is not what we need. I want to show you something else. This is very important too. This is very important too, because some of you may not understand this. This is very important too. Remember this, ladies and gentlemen? Anybody remember the government bailout? How they was bailing out corporations? They were bailing out corporations so they don't file for bankruptcy or go under. The American government, the federal government. This is what Obama did. This is what Obama did. If I were to tell you that this was reparations to those corporations, would you agree? Would you agree that this is reparations to those organizations? Would you agree? Because I want you to compare this to your life. Have there ever been a point where you got put out? I know I have. Me and my mom, we got evicted from plenty of apartments. They put all of our stuff right there on the block, and the people in that neighborhood was just doing just as bad as us, came and ramshacked it before we can even get to it. Did we get reparations? Did we get support? Did we get bailed out? No, we didn't. We did not get bailed out. But they tell you the reason why they had to bail out these companies because the infrastructure of America will fall financially. But what they don't tell you is that homelessness and poverty also cripples America too. Racism also cripples America too. Anyone see that research report that America lost $16 trillion because of discrimination and racism? Anybody see that? See, that 16 trillion they could have gave to us in a form of reparations, in a form of a check. See, when you add up $15.3 billion, and I'm going to show you this too, because we forget about this because it helped everybody. It helped everybody out. This is what we forget. We forget this right here. Let me pop this up really quickly. Where is it at? Right here. $2 trillion. $2 trillion. Listen to this. The Trump administration and Congress have enacted 3 separate coronavirus relief packages at a total cost of more than $2 trillion. The most recent legislation, the CARES Act, provides $1.8 trillion in direct aid to individuals and businesses, the largest stimulus package in U.S. history. We're getting there, aren't we? We're getting closer and closer to 14 trillion. Over the past 2 administrations, we're almost close to $14 trillion, family. We're already close to $14 trillion. And during the research report, America lost because of discriminatory acts, racism, insurance claims, discrimination lawsuits, wrongful firing, abuse. All these add up well more than $20 trillion. Dating back from Obama till now. If you want to decrease the wealth gap of blacks and whites in this country, then you have to cut every foundational black American $350,000. I don't care who don't like it. I don't care. I give 2 fucks about who likes it or not. I really don't. Because you know what? I heard nobody come forward, one, who has a platform of substantial and says, here's a contract, here's an agenda for Black America, except for Ice Cube and T.I. with the Lords of London. And I love all the people who are on code about this and supporting that brother. But don't talk to me about the Congressional Black Caucus. Don't talk to me about the NAACP. Don't talk to me about none of those people because they have done nothing in all this time. And matter of fact, they even changed their name. They have done nothing for foundational Black Americans. And see, the thing I like about this contract is that there's no compromising with this. We compromise all the freaking time. We should no longer compromise. We compromise with any and everything we do, ladies and gentlemen, and we should simply stop compromising. Stop compromising. When you compromise, you lose. When you compromise, they win. And we have to understand that the amount of money that this country has dished out to all sorts of minority groups time and time again. Time and time again. Now, I just want to show you this. I've shown you this before, but I believe it's important because a lot of you probably have not seen this before. Okay? Let me get it up. Let me get it up. Let me get this up. It's not the headline that I want, but I'm gonna pop this up. Now, Germany gives, listen to this one, family. Look at this one. Germany to give 662 million to Holocaust survivors struggling during the coronavirus pandemic. They said during the Holocaust, more than 6 million Jews died. How many Africans you think died during slavery of the 500 years? Because we understand that the first slaves that were brought to this country, the first slaves that was brought to this country was back in 1526. We like to really think about 1619, but slavery in this country happened back in slaves were brought to this country by the way of South Carolina and Georgia to cultivate that land, but essentially a lot of them fought back. This was the first form of a revolt and revolution of Africans that were enslaved in this country, South Carolina and Georgia, okay, over 100 of them fought back. A lot of them freed, and some of them actually died because of a disease. A lot of people don't understand that history either. It says Germany to give 662 million to Holocaust survivors struggling during the coronavirus pandemic. Jews are still getting reparations. What about this? What about this one, family? What about this one? Obama administration earmarks 12 million for Holocaust survivors. You probably didn't believe if you saw it. Okay. This is what I'm talking about, family. You got to go and you got to look at these things and just go, he didn't do nothing for black people while he was in office, but he gave Holocaust survivors $12 million. Isn't that odd? Isn't that odd? Really now? It says combined with matching private funds, there are approximately 2.5 million per year over the next 5 years. Will support 4.1 million in programming annually for organizations that help Holocaust survivors. Wow. What about organizations that help impoverished black people? Because we've been that way since after slavery, Jim Crow, New Deal, now modern day slavery. Where's the organizations that help us out systematically? Let me read down here. What does this say? These are our mothers and fathers, our teachers and mentors. They deserve to live their remaining years in dignity. And this award will help make the hope a reality. I don't want to take anything away from the struggle that these Holocaust survivors went through. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you understand the atrocities that these people went through, America, but you don't understand what we go through each and every day and what our ancestors went through. This is the information that is buried that they don't want anybody to find out because they know you rather just watch TV. You wouldn't want to go out and search for some tangible things that you can actually put part of your argument and say, well, what about this? Why did you do this? That you come to an argument without any talking points. If you come to an argument without any evidence, you already lost. You already lost the argument. When you're talking to other people, and here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, you don't need to convince anybody of the reparations you deserve. We get into these uneducated, nonsensical conversations with people who look like us, first and foremost, who are probably not foundational Black Americans. And then secondly, they could be part of the Black Boule. I'm going to point that out too. And then thirdly, are ignorant as hell and don't know nothing. See, my thing is, I will talk to those people, But I do have a cutting point. I'm like, okay, after I give you the history that you can go research for yourself, or we can just Google right here on our phone, and you found what I'm saying is true, then what's your argument? Someone told me the reason why the foundational Black Americans won't get reparations, and it's probably true, is because the people that we're referring to that have reparations actually went through some sort of atrocity, like the survivors of the Holocaust, like the people who went through the Japanese internment. But there has been a bill that our ancestors endured that has never been paid. And we are the ones who should get paid, because if they got paid restitution, reparation, then I promise you the wealth gap between Black and white Americans would not be 10 times the amount. It would not be 10 times the amount. People who have lost their way, I don't even want to call them Sambos in a sense. Black Americans who have lost their way and who do not know their history are the ones who believe that we can all just pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. We have to absolutely know that's not true. Ladies and gentlemen, that's my time for today, or for right now, rather. I was going to hit you guys with some Black-owned banks, but I got a little bug on my shoulder watching Tone Talks and Ice Cube, and I just had to get into this contract with Black America, because a lot of times people didn't even see the contract. No one read the contract. No one went through the contract word by word. That wasn't a full contract, but that was from the website. You guys want to go read it for yourself, okay? Which I believe is very important, that you guys go read this for yourself. But it's at contract with blackamericas.us. And as I said before, one imperative thing that is missing is a grant to every foundational Black America for $350,000. I know for a fact that $350,000 will change the Black community. Yeah, there's a large portion who's going to blow it away. About 20 to 25% are going to blow it away. Another 25% may even leave this country. Like, I'm taking my money and I'm out of here. Another 25%, I believe, are going to build businesses, and we're going to start to create Black Wall Streets once again. Then there might be 10 or 15 of us that probably go buy a mountain and go live there by ourselves. But there's going to be a large portion of us that's going to start building up Black Wall Streets again. The reason why we don't have to say white Wall Street is because the entire country is a white Wall Street, with the exclusion of Chinatowns, Indian towns, Korean towns, the Hispanic portions of some neighborhoods and counties. First and foremost, I want to leave you with this. If you notice, all of this is about economics. All of this is about economics. Now, with the exception of economics, it's about justice. We need economic and we need justice. Not just reform, but we need construction. Some people like to say reconstruction, but the only way you can reconstruct something if you have a construction. We don't have a construction. So we have to build. And this is why this contract is so important, because it's a foundation, with the exception of my $350,000. I really want my $350,000, Ice Cube. Go ahead and put an amendment to this and add that in there if he's listening. Because I understand the lending reform, the federal funding, but there's a grant that each foundational Black American is deserved. You guys have a great and wonderful day, and thank you for joining me. And hopefully you can spread the word that the only power that Black Americans have today is your vote. If you give your vote away to any political party who does not promise and guarantees you tangibles or agree to the contract with Black America, then you just lost your bargaining chip. You just lost all your power. When you have a document that panders to Black people like the Platinum Plan and Lift Every Voice Plan, and it says Black this, Black this, Black this, and then when they start talking about giving away resources and opportunities and tangibles, it's all to say people of color and minorities. It's a piece of garbage. It's trash to us. Because once again, they finagle these plans to help everybody else out while everybody else's ancestors were not enslaved in this country. And that is what you need to have your eyes open. We need to have strike-throughs, minorities, strike-through people of colors, strike-throughs, if it doesn't quite plainly say American descendants of slaves, foundational Black Americans. This is Financial Literacy 101. Learn money and be inspired. And I screwed that $350,000 check I want. All right, I'm out.